Hi, this is May.
And I'm Joy.
Welcome to the QWERTY Writing Life podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives.
May and I are friends, writers, and creatives who want to share our endeavors out loud.
On this podcast, we're here to encourage each other, and you too,
and share tools we've discovered or made up.
So you can follow your passions with a little support. So grab your tea
or your coffee,
and let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another week.
Hello, welcome.
We are so excited to be here with you today, and today we will have alliteration.
Yay, my favorite thing.
We might actually do more often than we recognize, but we're just going to put that out there today. So we're going to talk about the 3 E's of art, but first, let's talk about our creative weeks. So Joy, what did you do?
All right, so as you guys are listening to this, possibly, or at least when this airs, it is Fat Tuesday. So if you are familiar with Mardi Gras, if you live in the South, especially the New Orleans or Mobile area, you probably know a little bit something about that. So the past few weeks we've had parades and all sorts of fun stuff going on in the area where we live, and you know, there's a lot of creativity that goes into that. Just the parade, the floats themselves are very creative. You know, each of the crews that put on these parades have different themes each year, and so all the floats go along with that theme, whatever it happens to be. And it's just a lot of fun. But I think the best part about the parades, now I don't live in the city of New Orleans, I live across the lake, so our parades are a little quieter, but we have, the streets are just blocked off for hours leading up to the parade. And so kids who don't even know each other get out in the streets, busy roads usually, and they're out there playing football or just running or whatever, dancing. You know, people usually have music playing, and it's just kind of like this giant block party every weekend leading up to Mardi Gras. And that's kind of a cool thing because, you know, we don't get a lot of that these days, where you just kind of go out and hang out with your neighbors and have some fun. So it stirs the creative juices, I think, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do love the community of it as well. It's something that we do every year too. So this past weekend we had our city's Mardi Gras parade as well. And so we have a truck, and we put both of the kids in the back of the truck, and we have their bags and everything. So they're, during the Mardi Gras parade, they're up, elevated, closer to the floats.
That's the best seat.
Isn't it? It's so good. And so anything that they miss just falls right into the truck bed. And I'm generally back there like just picking it up so they don't trip on it and that sort of thing. But it's so much fun because music is blaring. You're just kind of moving along with it and just kind of getting in the groove and just having a blast. And there is not a lot of things that are like that these days. So very happy. Happy Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Right back at you.
So this week I am preparing for a conference that I'm going to. It's the Mississippi Philological Association. I submitted some poetry and got accepted for a panel. So I'll have my own panel of poetry readings. It is insane to even think about.
So exciting.
Thank you. The main poem I'm going to be reading is based off of postpartum depression experiences, so that's not super fun. But what I love about it is that it gives me a platform to be able to talk about the things that I went through so that other women who might not be speaking about it can feel a camaraderie with me and hopefully not feel so alone, because it was a very, very lonely feeling when I was going through it. So I don't want anybody else to feel that way. And now I have an opportunity to do that. It's my first MPA. Very excited about that. And I'll be able to see all of the different panels too after mine is done. I have a very early panel, which thanks guys. But
just chug some extra coffee.
Yeah. I'll rise to the challenge and be very excitable at 8 o'clock in the morning. Ooh, after traveling for 5 hours. So it's gonna be great.
Oh my goodness.
It's a kind of crazy to think that this is our life right now. So
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny because I actually I'll be speaking to a group of high schoolers, like AP English class at 8, on a morning a little bit later in this week too. So, we both pulled
Really?
the short straw on time things.
I had no idea. That's like breaking news, people, because I had no idea that that was even happening. Congratulations.
Thank you. I know
Good,
I've
good.
had like so many things pop up that I think I've forgotten to tell you half of them, but yes. So, 8 in the morning, we'll see what that's going to look like.
It's gonna look great. It'll be bright and shiny and early. It's gonna be great. The morning birds will sing.
Yes, yes. Yee. Oh
Oh,
goodness. All
so
right.
we have a great episode for you guys today. We are going to be talking about the three E's of art, and yes, we know there is no E in art when you spell it, but the three things we're going to be talking about that relates to art start with an E. So there you go.
Perfect. Glad we got that cleared up.
So these are all based off of the idea that creating and creativity is brought out of us from a place that is trying to understand things. So if you're creating for another reason, these might not apply to you, but Joy and I, we look at art as a way of figuring things out, and that's how we came up with these ideas.
So, our first point is emotions or mood. And May's got a great example to kind of bring us into this.
Yeah, I have been revising a novel length story, and it is not something that you can do sitting down in one sitting. And so you have, or I have, I can't do it. I don't know if you can do it or not, but wow. Yeah, there's like a certain amount of time that my brain is able to focus on it and to be able to be productive with it. And also because I have so many things going on and responsibilities, I'm not able to devote hours and hours and hours to revision at one time. So, what I started noticing with revisions uh, during this really long piece is that the days that I sat down to revise, and the revisions that I made reflected the mood and the emotion that I was having at the time. So if I had a really great day, wow, am I like just everywhere on the keyboard. So and also the things that I'm adding to the story or taking away is like highlighting the happy parts of the story. Um, but then when I would come in in a bad mood, or if something happened that day that was unexpected and maybe a little bit sad, and I came in, it would be everything that I wrote or added or revised to it would be despondent, and it would always lean toward the cynical. So So I started kind of like tracking that a little bit mentally, not really on a chart, although I wish I would have, because that would have been very interesting. But mentally I started thinking, okay, so yesterday I was feeling rough, and this is the way that that happened, like how my revisions are going that day. And then this day I'm happy, and this is the way that's going. Or if I get interrupted a lot, all of a sudden I'm like, "Grr," and, and my revisions reflect that. So that is my example about how my emotions and my mood affect art.
That's a really good example. And, I think that that's so true. I think that that's something that maybe people don't always think about is the fact that, your emotions really do follow through to whatever it is you're doing. And this could even be related to just your work. So, like, if you have a day job, your whatever's going on with you on that day kind of seeps into how you perform at your job. I mean, it's just the way that we're wired. We're emotional beings. And so that's part of who we are. So I think that one of the things, and this is something that I've kind of been thinking about, I wonder if there's a way that we can um, maybe have some little exercise that we do to
Mhm.
figure out, and maybe it could be journaling. And I think that that might actually be what would help me is if I can take just a minute to jot down a couple of paragraphs. Okay, how am I feeling right now? And is this going to adversely affect the work that I have to get done? That's just something that I've kind of been thinking about and wondering if that would help in these moments where your emotions are kind of changing the way that you are working and all of that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the exact same thing, not necessarily journaling, but like sitting down before you even turn on the computer or pick up a paintbrush or whatever you're going to do for your creative endeavor. And just for a moment, closing your eyes and just like taking stock and being introspective about where you are emotionally or with your mood. If you are tired or if the things that are affecting you either in a positive or a negative way. And I also thought too that if you had maybe a song or a poem or something that represents the mood of your piece that
Oh,
you're
that's
working
good.
on, like you can see, this is where I am, this is where I need to be. And you can maybe play that or read that in just a few minutes of that, and then be like, okay, here I am, I'm ready to go. So that was the other thing I was thinking about too.
Oh, that's great. And that is something that I do. I like to work to music. I know some people don't. They need quiet or maybe a noise machine or something like that. Yeah. So I definitely choose certain music based on what I'm working on. And when I'm writing fantasy and things like that, it's all about Enya, guys. Like I've got bagpipes playing and I've got Enya going. I mean, that's like that gets me in the mode.
I love that. I love it. I can't have music that has words to it because it seeps in to what I'm writing or it distracts me from what I'm writing. I can do instrumental music or soundtracks or something like that if I'm in a noisy place and I need to kind of cover up that. I could also work to white noise or just some sort of blurring kind of noise. But my preference is to be silent and still and just listen to all of the craziness that's in my head and try to get it out as fast as I
That's awesome. I love how everyone's
can.
process is different too. All right, so our first E was emotions, and our second
Mhm.
one is experiences. And this is kind of like where the emotions were the inner thing kind of coming out into whatever your work. This is what's going on around you.
Mhm.
And this might affect us a lot more than we even think. It could be, like you mentioned, interruptions earlier. Okay,
Mhm.
that kind of alters your mood and your emotion. But also just what's going on in life. If you're in a busy season or things like that. And the one thing that came to my mind was when you've just received a kind of rough critique, you know, you're in a defensive mode. So if you're like going to revise right after that and you're feeling very defensive, like I had this happen, not very long ago, and I was like, no, I'm not going to get rid of this, because I'm just in that defensive position. And so I think taking stock of what's going on around you and how you're reacting to that is very important.
I have two examples. One is rather light, I think. So there was this one time I was trying to write in a coffee house, and there was this person who was very loud, and her laughter was abrasive. Like it was like like it was, every time she laughed, it was just like So the moment I would get like back into the story, there would just be this moment because the person had laughed. And I mean, it was probably every few minutes. And I don't want to be the person who's like, well, they were having a good time and I'm, and I don't want them to have a good time. That's not it at all. And she was being her and like wholeheartedly her. The problem was me. I was the problem. Because I should know that I do better in a more quiet situation, and I placed myself in the middle of that coffee house, so I know that that was me, but it was just the outside experience, man, was um, not conducive to my creative process. So, um, so that's my first experience example. And my second experience example is how after after my dad died, I wanted things to go back to normal as quickly as possible because it was like denial kind of thing. It was a way that I could distract myself from the grief. And so I went back to trying to write and trying to work in the same way that I had before he passed away. And I couldn't do that because this had happened to me, and I was a different person um, because of something that had happened to me, an outside experience. And it was very difficult to create, and and what I did create changed. It mutated into this other thing. Um, but in the spirit of why we are making this podcast episode, because creating is coming from a place that we're trying to understand, I think that I was still like subconsciously trying to understand, even though it was ruining my art. so, um, yeah, so outside experiences can definitely have an effect on your art.
So true. Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like we probably have a lot of listeners who have maybe had similar experiences where, if you lose someone, that's a huge, huge thing. And it does alter a lot,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, creatively, all of that.
Yeah. I just don't want us to forget that grief is a process and art can help us through that process.
That's perfect.
Okay. And our third one, Joy, what we got?
All right. So our third E is evolution. All right. And what we mean by this is our own character arc. Okay, so if you're a writer, if that happens to be your creative medium, you know a little something about character arcs, right? You want this character that you've developed in the beginning to be different in some way in the end. And that's kind of what we're going for. But sometimes we forget that we are the characters in our own life story, and we need to change. And these changes affect our art. So
That is so true. And where we are, if we are taking a piece, for instance, if you are doing a documentary and the documentary is over a period of time, say like 5 years, and you're recording all of this, whatever your subject is, over the 5 years, however you change from year 1 to year 5 is going to reflect in how you hold the camera, in the scenes that you shoot, and what you document, and what you focus on, and that sort of thing. And you should be able to see some sort of change in the art that you gather all together. For longer pieces, like longer novel length pieces, or epic novel pieces, sometimes those can take years to develop. And if you're even looking at a series or a collection of stories that is all in the same world over um, 5 years, a decade, longer than that, you should be able to see how the author has developed, not only in their writing, but also in their lives and in their character. If you're looking really hard. so
that is true. That is so true. And, another thing too is, as you look and you begin to recognize this character arc in yourself, this evolution of yourself as the creative person, you'll also be able to pick out those emotions and those experiences and see them reflected in that work. So, if you started a piece 5 years ago when you were going through a really rough time, then you probably are going to see little bits of that, and so yeah, I think that would be an interesting study, just to look at your own work and pick out some of that, see what you can see if you dig deep. And then with
Absolutely.
an author that you like too, you may be able to, especially if it's someone you followed for a while and maybe you know a little bit about their story, you might actually be able to pick out a few of these things as you look through their work.
Yes, and that all leads back to our big theme on this podcast of introspection.
Yes.
It
And
might be our favorite word.
it's a good word. It's a good word. It's nothing to be scared of. I know sometimes we fear it, but it's a good thing. It really is. And I think that leads directly into our QWERTY challenge, because that's kind of what we're going to challenge you guys to do.
Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. So everybody pull out a piece that you have created and write down what it says about you. So look at it, kind of pull it apart a little bit and see if you can pick out what you were feeling that day when you wrote it. If you could think about the experiences that were going on around you during that time period and see if it affected your art at that time. And also if you have evolved since that piece was written, or if it was written over a long period of time during that piece.
That's
It's
going to be
kind of like
interesting.
it's like a science experiment, is it not?
Yeah, it really is. You might discover some things that, you didn't notice as you were going through them, or, are reminded of things that you maybe had forgotten. Could be very interesting.
Some little split-second decisions that you decided to add into your piece that was just a little glimpse into your life. I think it's going to be neat. Let us know what you find if you would like, and you can email us. It's all in the show notes. editorial@logosandmythospress.com.
Can't wait to hear about it. And we have one little announcement before we end. So next week, and if you guys follow us on social media, you've probably been seeing a lot of posts, but next week is the Women in Publishing Summit, and we are going to drop a link below in the show notes for you guys so you can head to that. But you can sign up for this summit for free and get an incredible amount of different speakers and presentations. You're going to learn so much. And then if you use the link, and you decide to add on the all access pass, which we are big fans of and recommend. And we don't often recommend you spend money, but we would definitely back this one. But if you do decide at a later time to add that in, then May and I will get a little percentage of your cost. So we thank you for that. And what's happening on day one?
It's us!
Yay!
We're going to present about critique partners, and the whole theme of the summit is Dream Big, and we are going to be presenting Dream Big Together, how to find and keep your writing critique partner. And we are so very excited to share this with you guys. Also, if you get the all access pass, there is a special treat that Joy and I have added. And we have, can we say what exactly we have made?
Yes, we can.
We can?
Yes.
I didn't know if it was like off limits or something.
Nope.
So if you choose the all access pass, we have created a workbook that is a companion to Finders Keepers. So no one else in the world has this notebook yet. It is an area for you to write down everything that we challenge you with, because we have QWERTY challenges just like we do on the podcast inside of the book. And so this will follow along as a companion with the book, and we think it's going to be really helpful, especially for people who tend to lose pieces of paper that they write things on over and over. Again, and that's me.
That's me too.
I'm excited about this workbook as well.
And this way you can also listen to these at any point. So if you do just the free part, which still you're going to get a lot, but you won't be able to go back to them. And you just will not be able to get through all of this amazing content in 1 week. Trust me, I tried the first year. I really did. And then I was like, nope, I got to get the pass because there's no way. So definitely recommend it. So, and we'll put the link down below and you can check it out.
Yeah. Well, we hope that you have the best week, and share with us what ease you've got in your art.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening until the end.
Seriously, you're a trooper.
Do you think QWERTY writing life is the bomb?
May, you just said the bomb.
Don't you censor me.
If you think QWERTY writing life rocks ice for real,
Oh my word.
please rate, review, and share us with others.
If you have questions about this week's episode or want to start a conversation, you can reach us by visiting QWERTYWritingLife.podbean.com.
We'll be back next week with more candid chats for you.